Nuwaupians family. This video is dedicated to assisting our brothers and sisters out there who study Wu-Nuwaup. And the reason why we want to put this information out is due to the fact that there's so much negativity when it comes to comprehending the doctrine of Wu-Nuwaup. And you get that feeling when you listen to so many of these ex-students who have put out so much negative information. And you guys are all familiar with people from your Chuck Morgans to your Tarnoons to even your Polites, who were all students of this information and they all fell off. Or in essence, what we would say, they were blinded by the light. One of the things I want to take the time out to do first and foremost is a lot of the books that we were putting out, I think in the year like 2000, around 2000, we began to put what we call the author's note in a lot of our books. And I think I want to read the first paragraph for those who have books that we put out in 2000, 2001, 2002. You'll see this author note. It's pretty common in most of the books. But I want to read the first paragraph by the master teacher. And I think it's very important. It starts off as saying is this. It says, I have devoted my visit to this planet to the resurrection of the mentally dead, which I affectionately refer to as mummies. Never did I know that the evil one had done such a great job with these people, both mentally and physically, as to have them hate self and kind. My greatest dilemma and hindrance has been the black devil. Born amongst you and by you, married to you, socializing with you, praying in the same sacred house of worship as you. But secretly they have a spiritual pact with the devil, which makes it near impossible for them to totally surrender to Nuwaupu. But for the few chosen from the many called, I sift to find those beings that wish to become one with the Supreme in all. So I, the Supreme Grand Hierophant, Amun Nubi, or Amun Nibu Re'akfa, as I am known throughout the mystical schools, the incarnation of Tahuti, thought, student of the great tomb, known as Atum-Re, the first point of resurrection from ignorance to right knowledge, right wisdom, and right understanding. I have blended in with each of the religions most interesting to my people. I live as one of them, practice as one of them, in order to reveal the misconceptions of these doctrines that have plagued and diseased the minds of my people.
And what book is that? Reading from?
This book that I'm reading it from is the Right Knowledge series number 4. It's called Breaking the Spell on the Blacks. And this is actually a revision of this particular book, because I think the first edition might have came out in like 93, 94.
So it's the early 90s, revised roughly around 2000.
Yeah, 2000, 2001, something like that. Because he referenced the year 2000 in this particular book. So it has to be like 2001, something like that. But there's some key points. And this is just the first paragraph, but there's some key points that he makes mention. One, he makes mention that he is the first born of the dead. He makes mention that as being the firstborn of the dead, his job is to focus on resurrecting the mentally dead black people that's on the planet Earth today, because everyone is mentally dead.
It's like, what does that mean?
It's
making a statement like, out of all these millions, maybe billions of Nuwaupian people on the planet. Like,
this is what he taught us back in 1967, that he is the firstborn of the mentally dead. Now, people will say, well, Elijah Muhammad taught that. And so, okay, then what does it mean to be mentally dead? Why would the master teach that he was the firstborn? Because the master always made it clear that he came to explain the doctrine of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was the reformer, or he is the reformer, and he came to add on or complete the mission that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad started.
That they're not different, that's one and the same. As far as the mission is concerned, as far as their two doctrines, that they are one and the same.
It's a continuation. Yeah, I guess it's a continuation. Our doctrine of Wu-Nuwaup is a continuation, and it's an elevation. So our doctrine was taking the doctrine of the Nation of Islam to the next level. In essence, that's what we were teaching and explaining. And the master put out a book back in 1986, I believe, called The Book of Land. And in that particular book, he's addressing how he is the successor to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and what his mission as a successor, and that how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad prophesied that someone would be born in the midst of us as of black people who will possess the knowledge of the science of the land and what that represented and what that meant. Because at that time you had the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's son that said he was the successor, Warren D. Muhammad, and then of course you have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that says he's the successor of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as well as other people. You have Salis Muhammad.
There's a lot of people, claiming, I'm here to take the Honorable Elijah
But the master
mission.
teacher is the only one who had knowledge and science of the land. What that meant, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad basically said he had dreamed about, and I believe this had taken place in 1967. So it's funny.
When the dream happened.
Yeah, that's when the dream.
So it sounds more like a direct vision, like he's interdimensionally seeing something happening at the same time.
In 1967, when the Honorable that's why a lot of people try to compare the master's teachings with the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When the master explained, he came to fulfill those teachings as the son of righteousness. Meaning, what does that mean? That means as a son of righteousness, he came to explain that which couldn't be explained, like the 25,000-year cycle. No one really explained that. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't have full knowledge of what that truly meant until the master teacher came and really broke it down. That our story renews itself every 25,000 years. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said a lot of things like we were the maker, owners, cream of the planet, the earth, father of the civilization, and gods of the universe. The master came and explained and broke it down scientifically how we're all of those things scientifically.
Yeah.
The master, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught about Yaqub graft the devil, but it took the master exposed.
Yeah, showing the bones.
Yeah, the actual bones of this cranial structure.
Who was this
these cone head, or this head the size of two heads the size of two men or something like that. And the
it sounded like a fairy tale before. Then the master kind of brought life and made it real, brought it down to earth.
He was exposing some apparent facts pertaining to that being an actuality. And we put that out in the Holy Tablets explaining that. And that was one of the things. In the Holy Tablets, what was it? Every chapter in the Holy Tablets started with Lo, the letter L, the land. And the master explained what the letter land represented. Because he had that symbol. He used to put that symbol out in a lot of the posters. Some of the posters that he would have with him. Is that what that what I have at the house?
We have that.
Yeah, that's the one I have. We'll show it. We'll put that up so people can see what that symbol of land. But that was the symbol of the universe. People that actually that symbol is the science of the circle and the square, and it reference to the science of creation. So again, no one understood that until the master teacher explained what the symbol was, how it related to the science of creation, which is what our symbol was. Our symbol that we had the six-pointed star and crescent. And that symbol of the six-pointed star and crescent was the symbol representing the science of creation. And it represented the two abodes. We talk about, for those who are studying our doctrine now, know about the two abodes being the realm of NoopooH and the realm of Zupu. And the master was explaining that in the Ansar doctrine way back then. But of course, he was explaining it on a lower degree, a lesser degree. For those who have some of those books and some of the information, then you'll know that to be actual fact. Because if you compare the information we put out in the late 60s, early 70s, then you'll see that the information is the same as what we're putting out today, and the actual facts. It's just more advanced, more updated, And so, how is it that someone gets blinded by the light in our doctrine? How is it that they fall off? That's the real question. What happens? What happens to an individual that they fall off? They fall off for the same reason that, as the Bible talks about Adam and Eve, why they fell. And it's one word. It's the attribute of the disagreeable ones, which is what's ruling the planet today. And that one word is and it starts with an L. Lust. That's as simple as lust. And another word, starts with E, ego. Because one of the biggest challenges with black people today, we hate being told what to do. We always want to challenge authority, so to speak. And that's the problem. Because the only way we're going to solve the problems that we're dealing with in the world today is to work together as one body for the collective benefit of all. And this is a very difficult thing for a lot of black people and a lot of the students that came into our information. People come in, unfortunately, looking for fault. And whatever you're looking for, that's what you're going to find. Whatever you're looking for, that's what you find. That's why if you listen to this guy, Chuck Morgan, he got like a ton of fault. Like, Nuwaupians this, Nuwaupians that.
Everything's bad.
It's like everything about Nuwaupu is just horrible. It's the worst thing since sliced bread. In fact, he's trying to equate us to the devil himself. That's how far gone that brother is. Same thing with the brother Tarnu. He says the master teacher is possessed by 6 ether and spirit forces.
He stole everything.
And he's a plagiarizer, and he's all of these things. And what that shows is the problem itself. What we teach and taught in Wu-Nuwaup. That what is the problem that black people are suffering from? We call it the spell of Leviathan. We put out 6 editions of this book, The Spell of Leviathan, and what that actual spell represents and what it means. And we have it break down into several principles. We said the negative Negro slave mentality, racial blindness, and spiritual ignorance. And when you look at someone like those brothers, all you see is the negative Negro slave mind. And why do we say that? One, we know they're negative because if you look at Chuck Morgan's site, everything about Nuwaupu is negative. And there's no such thing in absolute nature. In absolute nature, everything is balanced. That whole negative thing that all is bad or all good, that's that religion doctrine of God is good, the devil is all bad. And it's to get you on one side or the other of the pendulum. When nature is about balance. So when you hear an individual and everything that comes out their mouth about someone is all negative and all bad, so you know that individual's polarity is way to the left on the negative side of things, and they're imbalanced, uncentered. So that's one of the huge problems. And I'm pulling the word out to Nuwaupians: do not get caught up in that. Do not get caught up in somebody pulling you one side. You've heard, some people heard the saying, "It's too good to be true."
Yeah, all the time. People say that a lot.
Yeah, when something's like perfect, and because there's no such thing insofar as when you plop something up and say it's all of this good and all of this perfect and magnificent, as if there's no room for improvement or there's no flaw or any, and when that doesn't exist in absolute nature, because the absolute nature is always changing.
Yeah.
It's always changing for the better or it's changing for the worse. But nothing stays the same. So to sit there and say that there's something that's always good or always right and always this, it just doesn't exist, because we have fluctuating cycles. And that goes on within the human personality.
It's interesting you bring that up, because it's almost to say is, if something isn't perfect, I can't deal with it. It's like if there's just one or two or even 5 things that I could see wrong, even though there's thousands of positive, it's like it's worthless now.
That's what religion teach, though. Because the objective of every Christian and religious-minded individuals like Muslims, what is their primary objective? Where are they going? Where they all want to get to?
Everybody trying to get to heaven.
Everyone's trying to get to heaven, as they say. Everyone wants to get to heaven, but no one wants to
die.
Yeah, no one wants to die. And so, here's the question: why do they want to get to heaven?
Because it's all flowers and roses and peace all day long, every day. Yeah.
Perfect, no issues, no problems.
You know, that'd be an interesting question if you ask people, if there was one thing wrong with heaven, would you still want to go? Like something that you don't like doing here. You get all your peace and harmony, but like, I don't know, you had to sweep the floor every day there. Would you still want to go?
They make heaven an image of no challenges. Yeah. That you're not going to have any challenges. I understand that the Bible talks about in the book of Revelation, there'll be no more suffering, no more pain, no more death, blah, blah, blah. Which I hear that, right? But at the same time, then that means there's no challenges.
Yeah, don't say that. Don't say there's no more working. Don't say there's no more improvement. Yeah. I think we probably just assume that.
That's just not, but that's not realistic to existence because existence is balance. Everything in existence, it has to have a balance. And so, because that's what, when you're looking at life itself, you have to have what they call the positive energy and negative energy. They call it the forces of the heavens versus the forces of the earth, right? So the sun, for instance, emits a positive energy, which is what is a energy that's radiating out, pushing down, pushing its rays, sunlight onto the planet Earth. The planet Earth is a negative energy. That's energy that's pulling. It's pulling the rays of the sun into itself. So there's this pushing and pulling, and everything in nature operates on that principle. It's what creates the magnetic force fields that governs the whole planet itself. It governs the human body. Operates on this negative and positive flow, energy flow.
Balance.
It has to be balanced in order for you to have order. You can't have order unless the energy flow is balanced. So there's no all positive and there's no all negative. There has to be balance. That's why you have to have the black man and you have to have the black woman. We balance out each other because the female represents that pulling energy. The male represents that pushing energy, which is why you notice men are always talking. Men is always want to be heard. Where women are sitting back and they listening, taking it all in. So here goes that pushing and pulling energy. So this is a principle that exists in absolute nature. So whenever somebody is so far to one side of that principle, then you know that individual's out of order and you know that individual's out of balance. And there's something wrong with them. There's a defect within that individual, and there's a defect within that personality when you see them so far to one side or the other. And that's I think for Nuwaupians paying attention to a lot of the disagreeables that are out there, you have to be mindful of those key points that I'm trying to point out. And here's the other issue. The other issue is the complexity, I think, of the doctrine. The doctrine is extremely complex. For me, I've been studying, it's going on since 1989. So we're in 2017. So it'll be 30 years for me in this information soon enough, right? And it took me all of those years, those 27 years of studying to get to where I'm at now, where I have a real good comprehension of a lot of the principles that the master teacher has been teaching for such a long time.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people do talk about the fact that, you know, there's a lot of things, like you talk about the principles, it's not just, you know, clear cut, written out like, these are the principles of Nuwaupu, this is exactly what we're talking about, this is exactly what you have to do. So much of it is, you know, you have to pull from it. You have to siphon out the jewels.
I think if you ask the Nuwaupian, the master's been saying this for the longest, right? You have to turn yourself inside out. Turn yourself inside out.
Yeah. That's not a direct. That's not a direct kind of statement.
It's like, yeah, what does that mean?
It's like, what you mean? My guts hanging on the outside instead. That's.
This is how someone becomes an ex-Nuwaupian, because that's the main running theme about doctrine, right? From 1967 till today, we're still talking about the same objective, which is the Nuwaupian has to turn himself inside out, right? The other objective is the Nuwaupian has to conquer, dispel a Leviathan. So that's another thing that is hard for us to get. And then probably the easiest one is the third objective was we as Nuwaupians, as a people, supposed to live up for and by each other. So I think that one is more self-explanatory. We can kind of comprehend that one to some extent. But for whatever reason, black people know unity is the key, but, and this is the ultimate but. You know what that is?
I would say putting it in the application.
Yeah, how do we do it?
Yeah.
So all black people on the planet know that it's unity that's going to solve the problem, right? But how do you do it?
And then when you get to actually trying to do it, then the big problem comes up of black people don't like each other enough to be around each other like that and support each other.
Yeah, this is where the hard part is. And our doctrine's been explaining this like for eons now, right? The problem with unity is one word and one word only. This is what separates people. You know what that one word is? And you see this in all of the ex-Nuwaupians who've been blinded by the light. And not all, maybe, but most. Like 99.9%, at least from my experience, you see this one attribute in their character.
It's not lust, like you were saying before, is it?
Now that's what made them lose. That's what made them fall off.
Okay.
Lust is what made them fall off. Their own personal lust and their ego is what made them fall off. But why did they even succumb to lust? Why did they succumb to their ego? There's another attribute that's lurking in all of us. And
I would say ignorance.
No, it's not ignorance. It's not ignorance that I mean, ignorance obviously is the
spiritual ignorance is
the driving.
It's
the driving force. It's in the principles what we said Leviathan means.
Oh, laws of sin. So it's the
No.
Wait.
It's the first. It's the first word in the principle that we talk about that Leviathan means.
Law.
No.
That Leviathan means?
No.
Oh, negative, man.
Yes.
They're negative. Okay.
They're negative.
Gotcha.
They're negative. That's because think about it. Would they have left the information if they had a positive disposition about themselves and how they saw life? 9 times out of 10, they probably wouldn't leave. And meaning, if you're a part of something, in order to leave that which you was a part of, you had to see something wrong with it.
Yeah, it had to be seen as something bad. Something
right.
wrong,
something you saw that you said, oh, that's negative. Like if you take someone like Chuck, I think what probably got to him is, Dr. York's been plagiarizing. Right. I've been following this guy. He's been making all this stuff up. So he had something. The question is, what's inside of him that went negative with it? To see that in the negative aspect of it. And to him, it's true that Dr. York is a plagiarizer. And
that's really bad, and that's the worst thing ever, son.
Yeah. And so that's the issue with him. And if you take someone like Tarnum, same thing. It's something negative. And like one of the things that's even sparking me to even have this discussion about the ex-Nuwaupians, listen to what I was saying about the young brother who he caught.
Yeah.
And why he said he's an ex-Nuwaupian. Because what? He identified with something he saw as what? Negative. It's always that. And what do we say? It's the negative mind that's going to keep us divided.
So we're saying you can see positive and negative in anything.
Everything. There's no such thing as all negative nothing. There's no such thing.
Just like there's no such thing as all positive.
There's no such thing. Because once you understand what negative and positive energies are anyway. Like I just explained, the negative energy is a pulling. It's a pulling in energy. It pulls in. It draws stuff in. The negative energy, and the positive energy is the pushing. It's the drawing things out. So it's that pushing. It's like rowing a boat. Rowing that boat. Yeah. So you push in, pulling. Pushing, pulling.
That's movement. That's
movement. That's existence. That's life itself. Nothing can exist without this friction of going back and forth. Nothing can exist. Nothing can't move without this pushing and pulling. And so, negative and positivity is a perspective, one perspective. Because you take two individuals or you take three individuals looking at the same exact thing. You know, the prime example of that, and come up with totally different opinions.
Yeah. What's a prime example of that?
Yeah, what's a prime example of three individuals, right?
Looking at one thing.
Who are trained at the same level in observing what they're observing, and they all have three different opinions.
Oh, goodness. Whatever. I mean, the first thing that came to mind with me is politicians, because they always saying stuff that's different, you know, but...
Nah. They're looking at the same thing, three individuals, trained at the same level.
On sports.
Which one?
Sports. Or any of them, whether it's basketball,
the main one would be
football,
boxing.
Okay, boxing. Okay.
Boxing is the main one because you got three judges, all experts in
and you're very close. You're looking at the exact same thing.
Looking at the exact same thing.
They got the same kind of count. You know, you count the hits.
Because I think it was a fight that just happened like that, where one of the judges said one guy won, the other said the other guy won, and the other one said it was a tie. And they got the same box count, the same everything. Look at this. And then it ain't even like they're on different sides of the ring neither. They sit right next to each other. So what does that?
Yeah, just perception. We have just
it's
got
people's
perceptions. Okay, so you're saying some people just have negative dispositions. They're gonna see the negative in everything. That's their polarity. Yeah.
That's that individual's polarity. I guarantee most of the individuals, let's say the ex-Nuwaupians, right? The doctrine is not the only thing they see negative in their life. I guarantee it. They see a lot of things in their life.
Family members.
Is just negative.
Where their career went.
That's just where their energy is. That's their mentality. That they look at the adverse point of a lot of things.
Yeah, that's not hard to comprehend. Because I know a lot of people come across some real happy people. They be happy about everything. And they be looking at the bright side of everything. And other people wonder why they like that. And then you got some people just a stick in the mud. They just always mad and mean and just...
It's that old adage of, do you see the glass is half empty or half full?
Well, of course, you saying this is by the principles, we're saying this is not naturally us. This is a product of slavery now.
Slavery is what created that negative Negro slave mind. We were negative. Don't get it twisted. We've been negative for the last 6,000 years. But it's a state of mind, is what we're saying. And you know that because when you do research on the Patais, the Fahis, the little ones, the pygmies, when you research their lifestyle, what you'll find out is that these are humble, peaceful people by nature.
Won't harm anything.
Okay. Yeah, they don't have no concept of war
or retaliation. Nothing.
I'm like, you can kill one of them, and all they'll do is they'll sing and they'll dance, and they will not allow that to deter them from life, and they will exist, and they'll just move on. They will remember the individual that died, basically, but it's not like they're gonna pick up arms like the average individual. Like, I'm getting my guns, I'm getting my this, and we're going to war, right? But that's not them. That's why they're struggling. That's why they gotta live in the forest, because they're completely around aggressive, negative people. Literally.
They're like the complete opposite of what you call it, from Taken. And his whole thing is like, I will come, I will find you. They're like the complete opposite of that.
Exactly. Right. You mess with them, they're gonna put you down.
Yeah.
And that the Fahis, the Patais, they don't think like that. They do not see existence. See, and you take the brothers and the ex-Nuwaupians, who, whatever the fault that you see in Nuwaupu, let's say, for instance, their mind went in, it's bad, it's no good, I'm getting away from it, right? That's how they saw it. Where there could be another individual who sees the same thing, like, this is not good, right? They'll say something's happening and it's not good. How can we fix this? How can we make this better? How can we find a solution to the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, oh, I don't like this, I ain't dealing with those guys.
And just discard it completely.
Yeah, because if all black people saw their organizations like that, and the systems that we're trying to set up, if you're looking for the fault in the organization, how can an organization ever grow, flourish, and develop? Because there's no such thing that there's no flaw in something. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. There's no such thing. But when you are dedicated to looking at flaws, when you are motivated by flaws, rather than striving to perfect yourself. This is one of the things we taught in Islam as Ansar Allah, that the 103rd Surah teaches that the Ansar, those who are aiders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are here to work to perfect themselves because we fell from grace. Because of the fact that we were given commandments in the garden, right? The whole Adam and Eve story. Don't do this. You can do all this stuff, but don't do this. And you did exactly what you was told not to do. So you fell. You didn't know how to follow orders. You didn't know how to have faith. That's why the master always said his students he called mu'min and mu'minati. Mu'min for the males, mu'minati for the females, the faithful ones. And that derivative comes from amun, the hidden one, right? And so we had to have faith in that which we didn't comprehend. Like your parents telling the children, don't do this, don't do that. You don't comprehend why your parents are telling you not to do it, right? But you have to have faith, which is trust in what they're saying.
They have your best interest because they got you this far, right?
You have to have trust. We never asked in our doctrine ever to have faith with no substantiation. Like, that's what religion does. Religion, they want you to believe that somebody walked on water or they died on a cross, they rose the third day, blah, 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 without no substantiation, right? They've never seen it before. There's no documentation that it ever happened before. There's nothing substantiated, unlike, let's say, the UFO phenomenon. Now, you have individuals that will deny the existence of UFOs, but that's a silly argument because there's a lot of stuff to substantiate the validity of that. Just because you don't have personal experience of it, that doesn't mean anything when you're hearing thousands upon thousands of people having personal experiences of it. So we have lost sight, and this is where reasonability comes into play. We have lost sight to be reasonable, where we pass judgment or something, and we don't have complete knowledge, but we allow that to influence our decisions.
Okay. Can we bring it back over to we were getting with the spell of Leviathan, breaking down, I'm sure we're gonna have to go back to that, but breaking down first, turning yourself inside out, then the spell of Leviathan, as far as starting with the negative mind, not a racial indifference.
Yeah, this is why I argue a lot of the students, the ex-Nuwaupians, when we say they're blinded by the light, because they never got the message. Mm-hmm. Something the master said in the Ma'at CD. They never got the message. Those, because he said he had two students, right? One student that was here to work by spirit, and didn't matter what change the information went through, whatever we were saying in the doctrine, because the essence of the message was always the same. They can rot it out. Those individuals would always be with the information, as opposed to the other student that worked by body. They were caught up in whatever we were into, whether we were the Nuwaupian Moors, or we were the Ansar Allah, or we were the Yamasee Native Americans, or we were studying the UFO doctrine, or we're studying the sovereignty information. You have different students that got caught into the information. You see that today with different Nuwaupians that are caught into the different areas of the doctrine, as opposed to developing yourself spiritually. Because this is what we argued. We argued the problem we had, which is what I read when we first started, is the suffering what we're going through in this society is due to our spiritual ignorance. But the question is, what does that mean? The first problem is our people don't even know what spiritual means. They don't know what spirit means. That's the problem in itself. Now, I think we need to do a separate video just trying to explain what spirit and versus physical. But one of the things I do want to introduce our people to the reality is this. The human being has a dual nature. The human being has a dual nature. One part physical, one part spiritual. The human being has an atomic structure made of atoms, cells, molecules, tissue, right? Mm-hmm. That's your atomic structure.
The physical self.
Yeah, what we call the physical aspect of the individual. But the human being also has what we call a subatomic structure, which is the energy aspect of the human being, right? So we have a dual nature. What does that mean in more detail? You have a material side of yourself, and you have an immaterial side of yourself. The material side of yourself is your physical body. The immaterial side of yourself is your spiritual body. Okay? Now, when you look on the material side of yourself, which will be on your left side, your physical body consists of your skin, right? That's one material. You have your nails. That's another material. You have your eyes, your eyeballs. That's a different material, the part of your body. Mm-hmm. You have your organs inside, your heart, your liver, your lungs, your brain. That's another material, right? All of those material are atomic in nature. They have a molecular atomic structure. Okay, from dealing with the hydrogen atom all the way over on that periodic table, going
the fluids and all the solids, all that.
All of these, all of these different materials of the body, which makes up the body itself, and it's on the atomic side. Okay, but then you also have a subatomic part of your makeup as a human being. What is the subatomic part of you? What we call the mind. Your mind, your thoughts. That's subatomic. That's energy based. Dealing with the electron, which is subatomic. You have what we call the spirit. The spirit. Everyone talks about a spirit, but they never try to define exactly what is that. Well, that's subatomic energy. Again, subatomic energy is dealing with particles that's smaller than your atom, your atomic energy. Because what is an atom? An atom is nothing but protons, electrons, and neutrons, right? Mm-hmm. So when you break those particles down individually, now you're going into subatomic particles. And so there's the body, it consists of that type of material as well, which is, one is the mind, two would be your spirit, which is subatomic, three would be your soul, for those who have a soul. That is also subatomic energy. And just like atomic energy, just like your atomic structure, your skin and your nails are two different types of atomic material. Your teeth, that's another type of atomic material. Your organs is another type of atomic material. Same thing, the difference between your mind, your spirit, and your soul. Those are subatomic material, but they're different in nature. The same way your atomic material is different in nature. It's different in density, it's different in vibration, and so it's different in functionality. The same way your nails has a different function than your finger. Your eyes have a different function than your ears. And it's the same thing on the subatomic part of your nature. Now here's the issue. The human being is made up of all of these parts.
The material and the
immaterial. But the human being only focuses on one half of their nature, which is only the material side of themselves. They completely ignore the immaterial side of their nature. Now, they usually ignore it because they're completely ignorant about the immaterial part of their nature. A lot of that has to do with living Caucasian culture, because the Caucasian culture is completely materialistic. The Caucasian, as a race of people, are the main people on the planet Earth that their whole ideology is materialistic. Even their religion is materialistic because they don't deal with nothing spiritual in their religion. They talk about the spirit, but they never explain it, and they have nothing that address the spiritual side of the individual. So they never cultivate it. When you look at other cultures, let's say you look at the Hindu culture, or you look at the Oriental culture, you'll hear those particular cultures deal with the immaterial side of your nature, which they call the spiritual side.
Yeah.
But think about it. The Caucasian, he will, if you look up the word, and guys do this, look at the word material and look at the word immaterial. Immaterial has two meanings. One meaning with immaterial means something that's not important. The other meaning for immaterial means spiritual, something that which is spiritual, of the spirit. So think about what they're teaching us. They're teaching us that if it's immaterial, which is spiritual, it's not important. It's not important.
Yeah.
So that's why the average European, Westerner, black people who learned Western culture know nothing about the immaterial part of their nature. And so when we teach as the Nuwaupians, well, you have to turn yourself inside out. All that's saying is that you have to balance out the immaterial side with the material side. You have to develop the immaterial side of your nature as much as you develop the material side of your nature. Okay? So, for instance, the human being has 360 degrees of knowledge of their material side, but they have zero knowledge of their immaterial side. And this is why the master said he's the firstborn of the dead, because he had 360 degrees of knowledge of the material side like every other human being, but he also had 360 degrees of knowledge of the immaterial side, unlike the rest of the humanity, who are not spiritually knowledgeable about that side of their nature.
Meaning just as many of the actions that you could do with your body, you should be able to do with your mind, spirit, soul.
Yes, those are other how can I say, parts to who and what you are. They can be utilized. Like you use your heart. It's designed to pump blood, right? Mm-hmm. You use your fingers, your hands to grab things. You use your eyes to see. You use the ears to hear. Well, the immaterial part of your essence also has a use, but it's not being utilized. And anyone who knows this in medical field, if anything that's not used in the human body, it'll atrophy. It'll wither away. This is what we mean by black people selling their souls, because you've gotten so caught up in the material side of existence, trapped in the material culture of the Caucasian who lives by materialism. This is what capitalism is all about. It handicaps you. It literally handicaps you. And this is what our doctrine has been trying to teach. But it's a complex subject. It's an extensive subject matter. We cover it tremendously in our doctrine. But
I guess if you're not familiar with that, when somebody talks about it, it's kind of like talking to a brick wall. They don't even want to focus on it, because let me give you some examples. How do you develop the immaterial side of yourself? The first key to developing the immaterial side of yourself is meditation. Well, what is meditation? Meditation is a Hindu practitioner who I like his analogy with meditation. Meditation is similar to sleep. It's the same thing. The only difference between sleep and meditation is sleep, when the human being goes to sleep, and every human being on the planet does this for the most part, right? When a human being goes to sleep, sleep is what we call unconscious meditation, which is why the human being, when the body is in a sleep state, it has a dream state. It goes through a dream state in your conscious mind, and it can be real. Like some people can't tell the difference between whether it was dream or real. That's a clue. Because it was so vivid.
Yeah, that's a clue that's another level of existence just from the dream point of view, right? So, But that's what sleep is, where your conscious mind is not really activated other than the dream state. And people don't really have control over their dreams unless you study lucid dreaming, which is a whole nother subject matter. But what is meditation? Meditation is conscious sleep. So that's the goal of someone who's meditating. The goal of someone who's meditating, they master how to induce their physical body to put it in the same sleep state, basically, but they're still consciously aware. So their body is in a sleep state, but their consciousness is still active and aware. Because guess what? The mind never goes to sleep. The mind doesn't need rest. The mind doesn't feel pain. The mind doesn't get tired. The mind doesn't need food. The mind doesn't need any of those things that the physical body needs. Okay? The mind is another material of who and what we are versus the physical part of us. The atomic part of us is another part of us of who and what we are. But they're distinct. And we never developed that aspect of our nature, which is the mind. And how to keep the mind conscious when the body's in a sleep state. This is what the practice of meditation is designed to teach you.
I can see a challenge that people have with that already, because there's been so many people in my life where when we've even broached that kind of subject, the issue becomes shutting down all the stuff that you can do.
That's a spell, but that's what the spell of Leviathan does. The spell of Leviathan is to get your mind so preoccupied on stuff.
Yeah, like today is Sunday. Everybody trying to watch, the football game.
Yeah.
And then they trying to eat. We eating all
Yeah,
day long.
I gotta eat.
I gotta go play basketball. And then
Yeah.
I gotta do my taxes. And then, this show is coming on before I go to
Exactly.
bed.
Exactly. And that's what the problem is. The problem is that the human mind is so preoccupied with stuff. They either got to go to work, they got to prepare lunch for their children for school tomorrow, they have to get a new outfit for job, they're going in an interview, they're studying for a test for their class. It's always something in the material world where the mind is always preoccupied telling the body, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. So you never take a break from the material side of existence. And that's what the Caucasian world is designed to do, to keep you so preoccupied. Literally. And so now think about it. This is the core essence of our doctrine. We kept saying you have to develop the immaterial side of your nature. You have to develop the spiritual side of your nature, right? Because that's the only way you're going to be able to defeat the disagreeable one. Mm-hmm. There's no other solution to defeating the disagreeable one. You with me on that? So think about the student that's just pure physical. Because I've had students tell me, man, I can't meditate. So if you have an individual and you're a student in this doctrine and you're just someone who's just pure physical, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to exist in this information.
Well, I guess then another question I would have is, what exactly are you seeing in the doctrine of information? Because if you're saying, you now are saying, like, the main theme is about us getting in touch with our spiritual nature, developing the spiritual side of us, turn ourselves inside out, then if that's the main theme, then what is somebody else seeing? That if that's like the main
they're seeing,
theme.
let's say when we called ourselves the Nuwaupian Yamasi Native American tribe, I forget how. But we were Nuwaupian Moors, right?
Moors,
and so you had individuals, man, we're sovereign, we're gonna have our own system, our own land, our own everything. And so that kind of Nuwaupian was into the nation. This is our own black nation, we're gonna be doing it, this is our thing. We don't want to deal with the Caucasian government no more. And so that was their motivating factor. Not this whole spiritual stuff.
So pretty much wherever the doctrine went physically was where their mind was. So
here's the thing. So when the Nuwaupian thing switched, and they'll say the master teacher, hey, we ain't doing that no more. That individual's like, screw, like that brother, what's that brother? Lord Abba, who said he was a student.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet he's one of those individuals that when we dropped the whole Moorish thing, he's like, man, we're Moors, man.
Gotcha. I got you. So it'll throw somebody off if they're not realizing the main point is about spiritual development. Because no matter what physically we go into, The point is raised.
That's why you have all of these problems in whatever the organizations we set up. Let's say we set up as Ansar Allah, right? And then the brother Blind Philip writes that book, Ansar Cult. And he was getting information from ex-members that lived in the community. And they said, yeah, and this went on, and this went on, and blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, you're going to always see these issues in organizations simply because of the fact that the human being is what I'm saying. We're working on an imperfected personality.
We only focus on half of the side.
Yeah, we're only focused on half of our personality. We don't have control over our how can I say, our cardinal desires. That's what it means to be a Riskian. This is what it means to be a Elohim, which is what the Master's been teaching. Meaning that a Riskian makes decisions based on pure intellect. The human being makes decisions based on emotion. So for instance, when a human being is hungry, they go get something to eat. When a human being is tired, they go to sleep. When a human being, how can I say, somebody does them wrong, they get angry. Right? So the human being is influenced by emotional decisions, which is in the heart center. Okay? They're not influenced by intellect, where the intellect kicks in and it says, the body says, yeah, I'm hungry, I'm feeling hungry, I want to eat something. The intellect says, yeah, but you don't supposed to eat that, and you shouldn't be, you already ate like an hour ago, you don't really need food right now. Your intellect is telling you this, but your
stomach is like, but we hungry.
I want to eat right now. Or I like that, I like chocolate cake. I want my chocolate cake now. I don't want to wait, right? Yeah. Or I don't care that it's bad. So that's your desires kicking in over your intelligence. And that's the difference between a Riskian and a mortal. That's what the Master is trying to teach. That the Riskians, they make their decisions based on intellect, not emotion. They're not ruled by the emotional desires. And so in order to make the flip, you have to be able to make decisions based on intellect. So for instance, a Riskian, they don't get tired and go to sleep, because if the body needs sleep, and the body needs sleep, right? The body needs rest, right? But the mind doesn't need sleep. The mind doesn't go to sleep. It's impossible. The brainwave scientists will tell you the brain is always, something frying in the brain. Because you have to breathe, right? When you sleep, the brain controls all of the functions of the body. So it's always operating. So there's consciousness there. The dream state teaches us this, or the dream state explains that to us. There's always consciousness there. So, but that's hard for a student to get to that point. That's why, one of the things I noticed, like when the Master was kidnapped, right? Mm-hmm. And brothers who were living on the land, a lot of brothers who were living on the land, and even myself, I wasn't living on the land, but here's what you notice with older people. Like, let's say when we're in our 20s, and then when you see us get into our 40s, you see us gain weight. You see us gaining weight. Right? So I'm sure when the master gets out of the prison and he sees the brothers basically who were living on the land at that time, and he see them now and he see how much weight they gained. What does that say? That says that we're ruled by our emotional desires. Because the older you get, the less you're supposed to eat, because your metabolism isn't working the same way. But because we've been eating a certain way for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. By the time you're 40, you're 45, it's very difficult to stop eating that way you eat. Or let's say the amount of food that you eat, the size, the portions of what you eat. You see a lot of our people just get massive and massive and massive.
You're not burning it as much. Huh?
The body, the metabolism slow down, so you're not burning it. So your body doesn't need the same type of substance. But you're eating on condition. You're literally eating on condition. Now, here's where the negative mind will say, before we wrap this up. The negative mind, listening to this, yeah, but Dr. York was doing all that stuff, so why should I be, I ain't gonna listen to that, because Dr. York never did that crap. He talked that crap, but Dr. York, I I saw him do this, and I saw him do that, and Dr. York, and blah, blah, blah. He talk all that junk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the negative mind will go. Because the negative mind won't think, let's say you're right. Let's say Dr. York, he's a crackhead. Okay? He tells you don't smoke crack, but you see him in the corner smoking crack. So what are you saying to me? Or I should say, what are you saying to yourself? Because you're your own judge. Did Dr. York tell you what to do that was right for you? And are you making your decision to do the right thing based on seeing what you think Dr. York is doing is the wrong thing? Whatever it is you thought he did, good or bad. Are you making that decision based on what you're seeing him do? Or are you making that decision based on your intellect? Your intellect that's telling you what is right versus what is not right. Because that's what a Nuwaupian is about. A Nuwaupian is intelligent enough to make an intelligent decision based on what they know is right. I believe this right is what you know is right for you. And that's what makes you God. Because Dr. York is his own God on his own mission, and you can't judge his mission and what his objectives are for him versus yourself. And you don't need to do that, not when he put all this information out, hundreds of books, hundreds of tapes on how a Nuwaupian is supposed to conduct themselves, how our ancestors lived for our development to transform ourselves back into gods and deities. Each individual has to be responsible for their own decisions and their own actions. And you can't use him, which is what you did, use him as a scapegoat, which is why they went to the beast to try to say he did this to me, he did that to me, rather than being black people being responsible and dealing with our own problems, rather than running to our natural adversary. That's the problem. That's the problem. And this is why the ex-Nuwaupian, I'm saying, is blinded by the light.
I guess that last part is kind of going into the live of, for, and by each other. That we are supposed to stick it out thick and thin and solve all of our problems.
We're
provide for
responsible.
ourselves.
That's right.
Be responsible
That's
for everything.
right.
Good and bad, whatever.
Good and bad, right and wrong. We are responsible for each other. For the good we do, for the bad we do. That's what they try to teach in the marriage ceremony.
Yeah,
right?
the death part, sickness and the health. All that.
Right?
Yeah.
For better or for worse?
Better or for worse, yeah.
Only the way we're going to part is what?
Death.
Only death is going to make us part, no matter how hard things are. But people don't believe that. They make those oaths, and they don't believe none of that crap. Because as soon as the hardships come, they want separation.
You know what I'm saying? That's been the same issue with the organizations, our people as a whole.
Those are the individuals blinded by the light. They want to do their own thing. They just want to do their own thing. And I'm trying to tell any students of Wu-Nuwaup, do not fall for that. Don't get caught up in that. You have to learn to be responsible. You have to know to do that which is right to do. Our information speaks for itself. And we're going to do a video addressing specifically, let's say, dealing with this brother Tarnu and the information about this plagiarism stuff, because I think it's affecting the minds of a lot of Nuwaupians, especially when you look at the brother Hui Kai. He actually believes in what Tarnu is saying about this whole Afro-Uno stuff. And Afro-Uno and Dr. York plagiarized from Afro-Uno, and they still saying, look at him now, because they bring up the actual facts, and see, they're still plagiarizing from Afro-Uno.
Yeah, we will get to that in due time.
It's like, I'm like, man, we're lost. But yeah, we're gonna address that. So look out for that lecture. We're also gonna address Chuck Moore. I'm not gonna waste my time trying to answer his silly 360 questions on this silly site, because I already told them the answers are already in our doctrine. It's silliness, but I am gonna do an overview of what Chuck is trying to say, and I'm gonna do an overview of this whole plagiarism thing, to expose the silliness and the lies that brother's been pushing. He's been pushing lies about the plagiarism stuff, because it's all lies, and as well as Tarnoon is pushing lies, because the guy that Tarnoon is claiming is Afro-Uno, that's a lie. These are all lies, and so look out for that. I want you guys to be aware of what we're putting out, this information, Support what we're doing at NoopooH.org, as well as support what we're doing at NoopooCC.com. Other than that, till the next time, why do, family?